Hi everybody, it's Brett here from Metropole. Well, are you hoping to find the next property hotspot? Perhaps the biggest hype in property investing is around finding the next hotspot and getting into a location before it booms. The only problem is by the time the data and the information comes through and the experts can pinpoint the exact location, it's often too late. We then see the hotspot become the not spot. Perhaps it's the appeal of making a quick buck and hoping it will change everything and maybe supercharge your investment portfolio. Timing the market is something that even the experts struggle with. So what chance does the average person have? So rather than thinking short term and timing the market, why not take a longer term approach and focus on time in the market? More importantly, time in a suburb that is known, proven and trusted. This is what we look for. My first recommendation is to actually follow the herd. I'm not talking about being a sheep here, but what I'm talking about doing is follow the majority. Understand how people are investing, understand how people are living more importantly, and adapt to those trends and changes in their habits. It's really critically important to understand how people are choosing to live and are going to choose to live moving forward, because that's going to influence your investment making decision. The other thing is, by moving in a herd, you've got an element of safety. Property investing is certainly very risky, so anything that can reduce the risks and have an element of safety involved, you should seriously consider. I guess the first thing we look for certainly is to understand human nature, and to thrive and survive, people are going to have a need to have a job, and employment's going to be a critical factor. So that is why we focus on the capital cities. Sure, there's going to be jobs on offer in the regional places and the secondary locations, but it's going to be a drop in the ocean compared to the numerous amount of jobs being created in our capitals and our cities. And that's hugely important to understand, because that's where the majority of people are going to congregate. Once people have that job and they're settled, they're probably moving in maybe to a family formation stage, or they've got kids already, and they probably want to look at their kids and their education. So education is another critical factor. Once people are settled in a location and close to where they're working, they've got a job and they can get into those locations, school catchments are going to be critically important, and education is a critical factor for families. I know in Brisbane we've got some locations where one side of the road to the other could be $50,000 more or less, just because you're in the school catchment. And you've probably read endless articles suggesting that the school catchments are the way to go. And I certainly think that's something you should strongly consider moving forward. Not just primary schools and secondary schools, but there's also those multi-generational suburbs where people are going to primary schools and high schools and also universities as well. So the more of those types of options, the better. Moving forward are going to be critically important as well. The next thing we want to look for, now we're kind of settled and we're looking for schools, we also want good infrastructure and public transport and the ability to move around. Our roads are only going to get busier in these locations, and governments are spending billions and millions of dollars in these inner city locations rather than continuing to spend further out to upgrade infrastructure and planning and things like that as well. So finding things like, a bus and a train is really, really important, but maybe a ferry, maybe some light rail. The options need to be abundant and endless. And speaking of options, the next thing we look for are locations that have convenience. It's no longer good enough to have a local coffee shop and maybe a takeaway restaurant and a park nearby. You've got to have multiple coffee shops, multiple restaurants, high walkability, good access to public transport, lifestyle precincts, where you've got the breweries, the organic butchers, all those kinds of things, the movie theatres, the 10-pin bowling, and that's becoming critically important as well. So there you go, guys. Rather than focusing and trying to time the market, understand longer term fundamentals, understand human habit and how it's going to impact our markets moving forward, identify the right areas and locations where that demand's going to stay strong, and then have time in the market, have decades in that particular market, and it's going to greatly improve your chances of creating longer term wealth. Thanks for watching.